Hi, this is a Yesterday's Moose production, and today I'm going to be playing Namco Museum 50th Anniversary Collection for PlayStation 2. This video is in response to Namco Museum being released on the Nintendo Switch. This video is part 2, where I will be playing the remaining 8 games in the collection. The games I played before are Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Mappy, Galaxian, Galaga, Dragon Spirit, Dig Dug, and Bosconian. The games I will be playing today are Pac-Mania, Galaga 88, Xevious, Sky Kid, Rolling Thunder, Rally X, Pole Position, and Pole Position 2. Also, I will be sharing some facts that I looked up about the games in Let's Play and Learn. First game up is Pac-Mania, which was released in 1987. Let's go ahead and get it started. The ghosts that appear in this game are Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde, which appeared in the original Pac-Man, as well as Sue from Ms. Pac-Man, who for some reason is now purple instead of orange. There are also 2 new ghosts by the name of Funky and Spunky, or Common and Grey Common in the Japanese version. Also, bonus objects in this game not only include traditional point-scoring fruits, but also power-up items can have random effects, such as doubling the point values of ghosts, or causing Pac-Man to move faster than normal until the power pellet wears off. This game, I do remember it being in the arcade, and I never got particularly good at this game. I'm probably just as good as I am at the original Pac-Man. I do like the isometric view and the kind of Lego block design of this first level. Definitely do notice that there are more ghosts. That is very apparent when you start playing this game. Also much more elaborate cutscenes, which are interesting to watch. Oh boy, that's a lot of ghosts. Watch out, Pac-Man. Now this level does remind me a lot of the second maze in Ms. Pac-Man. Also, it's interesting that Pac-Man has the ability to jump in this game, allowing him to avoid enemies. Can use that very strategically to help yourself out, make things a little bit easier. There's no reason for me to be jumping, but hey, I'm jumping around. I'm trying my strategy here of trying to get the power pellets and then clear out as many dots, in the middle of the game board as possible. Also, collecting dots when the ghosts are not around. Seem to be doing pretty okay right now, all things considered. I did put this game on the default settings. Typically when I just play it on my own, I increase the amount of lives that I have just to make things a little bit easier. Really just depends on the game. For Pac-Man, I'll probably increase my lives, but if it's a game I'm more familiar with, then I might go with the standard amount of lives that it gives you with the default settings. Oh no. Ran into a ghost. I'm definitely not a ghost buster. And unfortunately, I believe that was the last life. Yep, I'll go ahead and enter in a name of some sort, some initials. There we go. And then on to the next game, which is Galaga 88. I think I might have played this once or twice in the arcade. I liked the original Galaga a lot better. I did play Galaxian, but Galaga was my favorite. Galaga 88 was shockingly released in 1987. And it is the third sequel for Galaxian, which Galaxian was the original, then there was Galaga, and then there was a game called Gaplus or Galapus, something to that effect. And I don't remember that game being in the arcade at all, to be completely honest. This game was ported to the PC Engine, and then was later released in North America on the TurboGrafx 16 as Galaga 90. And the Sega Game Gear in Japan had its own version, and it was called Galaga 91. However, when it came out in Europe, it was called Galaga 2. Game names are not confusing at all. And apparently Galaga is the name of the starship, quote-unquote, that you control, as well as the spaceships that capture you. They're called Boss Galaga. So again, not confusing in the least. And you can apparently have up to 3 starships combined to increase your firepower. I, however, am going just with a single starship approach. Not exactly certain what happens when a starship gets captured. I'm sure it's just like the capturing mechanic in Galaga, but since I don't have much experience with this game, I don't like to get captured, because that's basically like it costs you life if you happen to lose, then, or accidentally shoot the ship, then you lose an extra life basically. So it's a bit of a pro and con kind of situation. The graphics for this game are certainly improved, obviously. And the way that the Galaga or enemy spaceships, whatever they happen to be called, the way that they come into the screen is a little bit more elaborate than the previous game. Same with the bonus levels. So I find them a little bit more unpredictable. And I got hit, unfortunately. There we go, on to the next level. With these games, there's a lot of information online, and I keep saying you won't know because I'm just saying this stuff now. So maybe I should stop saying that. Anyways, I looked up this information online, and there's plenty to be found. However, I had to pick and choose what I would talk about and what I would leave out. I could basically fill the whole video with nothing but information about a single game, but that probably would just be information overload and maybe a little bit boring. At this point, I really don't know how people are going to respond to this Let's Play and Learn, because haven't really had any direct feedback about it. And there we go, that was my last life. There are the stats. I think I did okay. Go ahead and put in some initials. I'll go ahead and put in Zod, because why not? It's 3 letters. On to Xevious. Xevious was released in 1982. And there's these bosses called giant floating and/or Genesis motherships that appear in certain areas and are considered one of the first level bosses to be incorporated into a video game. That's kind of interesting. It's also interesting that you can go through this game without shooting any of the enemies at all. You could have a completely pacifist run of this game if you wanted to. The game scrolls through 16 areas, looping back to Area 7 after Area 16. And in 1983, Xevious was the first arcade game to have a television commercial aired for it in North America, with the slogan, "Are you devious enough to beat Xevious? The arcade game you can't play at home." Copyright, trademark. I'd buy that for $1. What's interesting about this game is that the bullets that shoot after you are not very fast, so they're pretty easy to avoid. And I end up doing pretty well while I'm playing this game. So you have basically two attacks. You can shoot forward and you can bomb the targets on the ground. If that wasn't already complete, I did it again. I said, I meant is if that wasn't completely obvious already by the fact that I was shooting and bombing. And then I think of it, this reminds me a little bit of B-17 Bomber. Just because you're bombing stuff, they actually have nothing in common. But it's worth mentioning that that's probably my most popular video on my channel, which is really weird. I'm probably going to make an updated version of me playing B-17 Bomber for the Intellivision. This time with better quality video. And I don't know what these things are supposed to be, but as far as I can tell, they're indestructible. So I'm not even going to bother trying to shoot them. Just have to weave in and out, avoid them. It's not really hard to do. Get to bomb a few targets on the ground, get some more points. Because games were all about the points. Definitely about the points. I suppose that's one thing that modern gaming has gotten away from a little bit, is gaining points. I suppose it's now maybe about unlocking achievements or something. I really don't know what's popular anymore. I'm trapped in the 1980s. I thought it might be funny to have a little video called Back in My Day, just basically talking about silly things from back in my day, such as rotary phones, which you could literally slam onto the floor and they wouldn't break, whereas now we have cell phones that if you look at them the wrong way, they'll be broken. And here's the boss. Didn't realize that you actually have to bomb this boss rather than shooting at it, which to me is a little weird. Like, why would you bomb it? Why wouldn't you just shoot it? But apparently that's what you're supposed to do. I guess it's on the ground. It's really hard to tell. With these kind of shooters, I would expect that that you have to shoot the thing, not bomb the thing. But what do I know? This is an old game, way back in the 1980s. 1982. Avoid the bullets, avoid the bullets. Shoot, shoot, no, bomb, bomb. Right, bomb, bomb. Boom goes to dynamite, boom goes to dynamite. Oh no, it's getting away. Ah. I think I just advanced beyond that boss thing. I don't get to face it again, unfortunately. Wow, definitely getting a little bit more difficult now. I'm on to my last life. Again, it's optional to shoot these things, but getting points is good. Want to get that high score because, you know, I'm the only one who will be able to put in initials unless somebody else comes and plays this game. And since I have no life and no friends, that's never going to happen. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. I do have a friend. Not the invisible kind. A completely real person. Okay, there we go. That's the end of the game. And you can actually put in a very long name into the credits here. A few games do that. I can't name all of them, but definitely a few games do that where you can put in a longer name. I find that typically when a game is brought over to North American market that they still only have 3 characters that you can enter, so you can only really put in your initials. Alright, on to Sky Kid. A game that I never really played too much in the arcade, and I'm not particularly good at. Sky Kid was released in 1985, and it was the first game from Namco to allow 2 players to play simultaneously. That's kind of interesting. A sequel named Sky Kid Deluxe was released in 1986, and the players in this game take control of the Sky Kids, one who's called Red Baron and another called Blue Max, which are a reference to Manfred von Richthofen, the famous World War I flying ace. That guy's the Red Baron. And Blue Max is a reference to the prestigious order Pour le Mérite. I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be wrong. There are members of my family that speak French, and I am not one of them. But what I find weird about Sky Kid is that you have to fly your biplane and then you have to pick up your bomb along the way, carry it to the target, and then drop it onto the target, which is really hard. I also find it difficult to know exactly how many lives I have left, because I just lost a life, and from what I can tell on the bottom right hand corner there, it still shows 2 lives. At least that's what I think, where it shows the lives. And I just ran into a tree. Try again. See, that thing still shows the number 2. So how many lives do I have? Maybe I forgot to put it on the default setting of 2 lives. Maybe that's it. Maybe it'll only show 2, but I actually have 5 lives. That could be a possibility. In which case, sorry, I meant to put it on the default settings. But hey, that'll allow me to show a little bit more of the game. Now I have this bomb. See if I can actually carry it to the target. Bombs away. That was on target. Oh no, no. Oh. Mission 2. Bomb this target. Here we go again. Don't like these planes that come from... Oh, and I hit this tree again. Game over. Okay, so that thing on the bottom right-hand side doesn't have anything to do with your lives, apparently, because it still said to. Huh. Well, maybe someone in the comments will tell me what that's all about. Some super fan of the classic video game Sky Kid. Go ahead and put in a whole bunch of stuff here. Yeah, that sounds good. Bad Zod. On to my favorite game of this collection, Rolling Thunder. I do remember playing this game a lot in the arcade, and I always wanted to have a home version of it. I've mentioned in previous videos that I did not have the Nintendo Entertainment System growing up, so I wasn't aware that this was released on home systems. Although it was ported to other things like the Commodore 64, which I did sort of have. I had a Commodore 128 for a little while. Didn't have any games or anything for it, but I had the computer. Anyways, Rolling Thunder was released in 1986. And the story is apparently this. The player takes control of Albatross, a member of World Crime Police Organization, WCPO. And their unit is called Rolling Thunder, the espionage unit. Albatross's mission is to save a missing female agent named Leela Blitz from a secret society named Galaga, located in New York. Because of course, old school game, it's all about rescuing the princess. It's all about rescuing your girlfriend or some woman in distress. Wow, they really had to think a long time about that, didn't they? The main enemies in Rolling Thunder are hooded soldiers known as maskers. Okay, that's interesting. And there was a port announced for the portable system Atari Lynx, but it was eventually canceled. And I believe that there might even be two versions on the NES. There was like a licensed version as well as an unlicensed version. And I'm sure if you were interested, you could look up information about that. That's a pretty interesting story about how a lot of companies were basically locked into making games for the NES. So sometimes they would go and make unlicensed games. Like Tengen or Tengen, however it's pronounced. They released a lot of Namco games. They had those weird gold NES cartridges. Watch out for that grenade. What's unique about this game is when you run out of bullets, you'll only have, say, one bullet left. And you'll still be able to use it, but you won't be able to shoot as often. You'll just have this really slow bullet that will go across the screen. And also it has these weird intermissions, where I guess it's showing what's happening to that female agent. And I can definitely tell that this is on the default setting because it is a lot harder than I normally would be playing it at. When I play these arcade games, I kind of like to make it from start to finish. And oh, game over. That sucks. Okay, I'll just go ahead and put in some initials. Because I'm bad. Who's bad? Hey, don't laugh at me, green-faced guy. Okay, we're on to Rally X, which I may have played a couple of times in the arcade, but didn't really like that much. Rally X was released in 1980, and it was allegedly the first game with background music as well as a bonus stage. And back then it was believed that Rally X would be the top earner for the company. However, Defender went on to sell more than 60,000 units, and Pac-Man sold more than 350,000 units worldwide. So they were very, very wrong about thinking this game would be super popular. In a way, I can kind of understand why it's not so popular, because it's like pretty hard, and there's not a lot to do really. You just have to drive around and collect these flags. Whereas in Pac-Man, you're going around the game board and eating pellets practically all the time. To me, that's a little bit more interesting than this is. Also, the enemy cars in this are really reckless. They drive into you at full speed without any caution whatsoever. You know, if this was a, you know what you know. When people drive, the first thing that they do is drive into other vehicles, because that's what they like to do. That's how people drive. Only in video games. Like there, like what's that all about? Come on. The objective is to get these flags that are strewn around the game board. One thing that makes it a little bit easier is it'll turn automatically when you get to a corner. Anyway, on to pole position, where I do very horribly. Pole Position was released in 1982. It's another game that was designed by Toru Iwatani, the designer of Pac-Man. It was released in two configurations, a stand-up cabinet as well as a sit-down cockpit type, which had an accelerator and a brake pedal, whereas both versions had a steering wheel and a gear shift. It also became the highest-grossing arcade game in North America by 1983, selling over 21,000 machines and earning $450 weekly in revenue per machine, which is a lot. It was also the most successful racing game of the classics era of video games, and had a Saturday morning cartoon, which apparently had nothing to do with the game whatsoever. But that's not a surprise. They often like to do that. And that's the end of my gameplay, because I am not very good at it. And it's always really hard. I'm not even sure what your ultimate goal is. They certainly don't give you enough time to do anything. There's also advertisements in the game when you drive around. They're actual real advertisements. Probably one of the first examples of product placement in a video game. On to Pole Position 2, which I also suck at. This game was released in 1983, and the gameplay is the same as the original, except now you have 3 additional courses to choose from that are based on real-life racing courses. One thing that's also notable about Pole Position, and this is just my own factoid, is that the look and feel of Pole Position inspired a lot of racing games. You can pretty much trace the influence of any racing game back to Pole Position. Games such as, like say, Spy Hunter 2, with the first-person perspective Mach Rider, Burnout, any of the Gran Turismo games. A lot of them, again, a lot of them have the camera fixated behind the car and the road ahead of you. although future games gave you a little bit more view behind your car. Anyways, I just smashed. That's the end of the game. And that's all of the games for this collection. That was pole position 2, where I did terribly, terribly, terribly bad. Alright, at this point, that's all the games for Namco Museum 50th Anniversary. Thank you for watching. This has been a Yesterday's Moose production, and I'll see you next time.